So, I guess I'm here because I genuinely don't know whether to scream, cry, or just laugh at how unbelievably stupid this whole situation is. My husband, Dylan, 38M, has been acting weird for months. Nothing extreme, just little things that felt off. He started forgetting dates we planned, disappearing for an hour or two after work because he needed to decompress, and snapping at me over the smallest things like I had personally offended him by existing. I chalked it up to stress. Work. Midlife crisis. Maybe he was just tired. You know, all the normal excuses we give grown men who act like teenagers. And here's the kicker. I still wanted to make his birthday special. I spent weeks planning everything. Invited his whole family, his friends, my friends who tolerated him, even his coworkers he pretends not to like. I booked his favorite restaurant, ordered his favorite cake, the one with the fancy frosting he always brags about, bought him a watch he's been eyeing for months, and decorated the private dining room they set aside for the party. I was exhausted but excited. I wanted him to feel loved, appreciated, celebrated. And, in a way, I guess he did feel celebrated. Just not by me. Because when I walked into the restaurant early just to make sure everything looked perfect, I saw something that made my entire body go cold. There, in the corner of the main dining room, in one of those dim little booths, was Adam, laughing, drinking, with another woman, her hand on his arm, his head tilted toward her. The kind of smile he hasn't given me in years. He didn't even look guilty. He looked comfortable, like he belonged there. My heart dropped so hard into my stomach, I swear it made a sound. And I just stood there, frozen, holding a bag of party decorations and balloons like some kind of clownish extra in my own life. I guess this is where the story really starts. I should have known something was off that morning. Dylan, my husband, 38, acting like 14, woke up weirdly early, practically leaping out of bed like the floor was on fire. Normally, on weekends, especially his birthday weekend, the man has to be physically rolled out of bed like a stubborn burrito. But that day, he was showered, shaved, dressed, and humming some ridiculous off-key tune before I even opened my eyes. Asked where he was going, and he gave me the most half-baked answer in human history. I need to, get some air. Yeah, fresh air. Doctor said it's healthy. The man hasn't seen a doctor in years. Not even when he sprained his ankle falling off the couch trying to catch a Dorito. I told him to be back by 6 p.m. because we had plans, and he nodded so aggressively I thought his neck would snap. Yeah, totally. 6. I'll be back at 5:30 even. Early for once. Ha ha ha. He laughed like someone being interrogated, but I brushed it off. Because stupid me was too busy setting up his surprise party, coordinating texts with his family, picking up the cake, triple chocolate his favorite, and making sure his best friend didn't accidentally spill the surprise like he did last year. All afternoon, I felt this warm, excited energy buzzing through me. I thought he's going to love this. He deserves a good birthday. He deserves this moment. I didn't know then how hilariously wrong I was. Around 5:45, I arrived at the restaurant early to set things up, balloons discreetly tied to chairs, gifts tucked behind the booth, the waiter ready to bring out the cake with sparklers. Our family and friends began trickling in, whispering, giggling, hiding behind menus. It was perfect. It was magical. It was everything I wanted for him. And then, I turned my head toward the back corner of the restaurant and saw him, my husband, birthday boy, supposedly getting fresh air, sitting at a small, secluded table with a woman I'd never seen before. He was leaning in close. She was touching his arm. They were laughing, drinking, sharing the exact same cocktail he and I used to share on date nights. I felt my stomach drop so fast I swear the floor tilted. My whole body went cold. Meanwhile, the server next to me whispered, "Are you okay?" And all I could do was stare. Because the man I was about to celebrate was on a date with someone else at his own birthday party. The worst part? He saw me. He saw the balloons, the decorations, the crowd of people gathering behind me. And his face twisted into this guilty, panicked, cartoonish expression like he'd been caught shoplifting. And the girl? She looked confused. He looked terrified. And I felt something crack deep inside me. And that was only the beginning. I don't even know how I kept walking. My legs were moving, but my brain was stuck somewhere between is this really happening? And I'm about to throw this cake at his head. I forced myself to get closer, pretending to head toward the restroom just so I could overhear them. She laughed loud, flirty, leaning way too close. And oh my god, he was doing that stupid shoulder-shrugging giggle he does when he's trying to impress someone. The one he hasn't done for me in years. He lifted his glass and said, "Best birthday ever." Birthday. Ever. Meanwhile, I was standing in the middle of the restaurant with a sparkly party hat in my purse and a full guest list waiting in the back room for him to arrive like a beloved king. I stepped back. My heart wasn't just sinking. It was plummeting. The kind of drop where you know you won't catch it in time. I felt nauseous. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the small box with his engraved watch inside. I went to the hostess stand, trying to breathe like a normal human. "Everything all right?" she asked. I opened my mouth but nothing came out. I just nodded like a malfunctioning robot and walked toward the party room. The place was already decorated. Balloons, lights, confetti cannons I'd spent an embarrassing amount of time assembling. Our friends were laughing, drinking, asking where the birthday boy was. I plastered on a smile that felt like it was stapled onto my face. "Oh, he's just running late," I said. Traffic. He was 20 feet away sipping cocktails with a girl who looked like she models swimsuits for a living. One of his friends joked, that he's trying to sneak in extra drinks before the wife arrives. Everyone laughed. I almost cried. I excused myself, claiming I had to check something with the staff, and walked straight back out to the main dining room. I hid behind one of those giant fake plants restaurants used to pretend they're classy, and watched him lean even closer to her. My birthday surprise? To find out I was the fool in my own carefully planned celebration. Then, because the universe has a sense of humor, the server walked up to their table with a sparkler stuck in a dessert. Happy birthday, sir. The entire restaurant clapped. My stomach dropped through the floor. Because he didn't even try to hide it. He didn't flinch. He didn't panic. He didn't stutter. He grinned. Like he was proud. And the girl? She kissed him on the cheek. That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not with anger, not with rage, but with clarity. I wasn't going to be the wife who cried in the bathroom stall while the world celebrated the man who betrayed her. No. I walked away. Slowly. Calmly. Quietly. Because this wasn't the end of the night. This was the beginning of the unraveling. And I wasn't done yet. I don't even remember crossing the dining room. One second I was standing behind a column, watching him laugh like some carefree bachelor, and the next I was walking straight toward their table with the kind of icy calm that should have terrified him on sight. He didn't notice me at first. He was too busy leaning in toward her, doing that stupid thing he does where he pretends to listen closely but actually just tries to look sexy. Spoiler. He doesn't. When I stopped right beside him, he finally looked up, and the way his face fell was almost poetic. His whole expression did this weird freeze-panic combo, like his brain just blue-screened. Oh, hey babe, he said, voice cracking and fake cheery at the same time. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? At his birthday party. The one I organized. The one starting in 10 minutes. With his parents and friends on their way. I felt a strange detachment wash over me. Not shock. Not anger. Just a numb, surreal disbelief. I'm here for your birthday, I said quietly. The birthday you apparently decided to pregame with someone else? The girl he was with stiffened, eyes widening. She looked young, too young, early 20s maybe. Not trashy, not obviously malicious, just uncomfortable. She clearly hadn't expected a wife to appear out of thin air. My husband, Mr. Bitchy Confidence himself, was suddenly sweating through his shirt. It's not what it looks like, he sputtered. This is just, a coworker. Yeah, she's from work. We were just discussing team stuff. She blinked slowly, like she couldn't believe he was using that as his excuse. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Oh, I said, team stuff. At your favorite romantic little restaurant. With wine. On your birthday. Alone. In the corner. Without telling me. He opened and closed his mouth like a fish suffocating on land. The girl finally spoke, quiet and awkward. You didn't tell me you were married. Of course he didn't. He snapped toward her, whisper hissing, why would you even say that right now? That was the moment something in me cracked, not loudly, not dramatically, just a small clean break, somewhere deep inside. A final one. I straightened up, took a deep breath, and said, well, good news. Your parents will be here in about 5 minutes, so why don't you explain all this to them? His face went full chalk white. My parents? Here? Now? Why? Because, I said, we're celebrating your birthday. The one I planned. For you. I turned and walked away before he could grab my arm. Behind me I heard chairs scraping, frantic whispering, and then his voice, high-pitched, desperate, pathetic. Wait, babe, don't make a scene. Sweet irony. Because he was the scene, and everyone was about to watch it unfold. The party was only just beginning, and he had no idea how much worse it was about to get. I stood there frozen, like my brain couldn't process what my eyes were showing me. The restaurant lights were warm and golden, everyone around me laughing and clinking glasses. Meanwhile, my husband, whose birthday celebration I had spent weeks planning, was sitting in the corner booth with another woman, sharing a drink like it was the most normal thing in the world. He wasn't stressed. He wasn't distant. He wasn't confused. He was comfortable, relaxed, smiling. Her hand was on his arm, and he didn't move it. I felt the air leave my chest so fast, I almost staggered backward. My sister caught my elbow and whispered, "Are you okay?" But I couldn't even answer. All I could hear was this loud rushing sound in my ears, like my heartbeat had turned into a warning siren. I looked down at the stupid birthday cake in my hands, his favorite flavor, handmade, custom decoration, the whole cheesy happy birthday love message, and it felt like the biggest joke of my life. I walked toward the corner table before I could stop myself. Maybe a part of me still believed I was wrong. Maybe I thought he'd see me and jump up with some kind of explanation. But when he noticed me, his eyes went wide, and he did the worst thing possible. He hid his face behind the menu. He hid behind a menu. The girl looked confused and glanced between us. He dropped the menu slowly, like a toddler caught drawing on the walls. "Oh, hey," he said, voice way too casual. "You're early." "Early? Early?" I was an hour late because of all the preparations. My hands were shaking so badly, I had to set the cake down on an empty table nearby before I dropped it. "What is this?" I asked, barely getting the words out. He blinked at me like I was the one interrupting him. We were just talking. She's a coworker. She was upset about something work-related. I'm being supportive. Supportive. In a dimly lit booth. Sitting shoulder to shoulder. Sharing drinks. On his birthday. The night of a surprise party he somehow didn't remember was happening. The girl frowned and asked softly, "You're married?" And the way she said it, surprised, disappointed, embarrassed, told me everything. He hadn't told her. Of course he hadn't. My throat tightened. The girl quickly stood up, grabbed her purse, and walked away without looking back. Honestly, good for her. He watched her go, then turned back to me annoyed. "See what you did?" he snapped. "You scared her off." I nearly laughed. The disbelief was so strong it was almost funny. "I scared her off," I repeated. "I'm your wife." People around us were staring now. My family hadn't come over yet, thank God, but they could see something was wrong. He sighed dramatically, rubbing his temples like I was giving him a headache. "Can we not do this here?" he muttered. "You're making a scene?" "A scene. A scene." I spent the whole day decorating, organizing, calling guests, picking up the cake, while he sat here flirting with a woman who thought he was single. The iceberg that had been forming in my chest all week finally cracked. I picked up the cake, held it in front of him, and whispered, "I planned a party for you." His eyes darted to the side, embarrassed. "Well, I didn't ask you to." And that was the moment something in me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, like a thread breaking. I straightened up, wiped my face, and walked away from him. He kept calling my name, but I didn't turn around. I was done begging a grown man to choose me over chaos. And when I stepped into the private room where everyone was waiting with confetti and party horns, I knew there was no saving the night. But the marriage? I don't even know how I made it back to the main table without collapsing. My legs felt hollow, like they were made of paper straws. Everyone was laughing, chatting, completely unaware that the birthday boy was in the corner booth celebrating with a woman who definitely wasn't his wife. My sister noticed first. "Hey, are you okay? You look pale." I forced a smile so hard it felt like my face would crack. "I'm fine. Just checking something." But I couldn't sit still. My heart was punching me from the inside. Every time someone asked, "Where's he? When does he get here?" I wanted to scream. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I turned to my sister and whispered, "Come with me." We walked back toward the corner, but before we rounded the divider again, I stopped. I didn't need to see it a second time. Once was enough to burn the image into my brain forever. I told her what I saw. She blinked hard. "Wait, that was him? That guy with the girl in the red dress?" I thought, no way. That's not. But it was. And her shock made me even angrier, because it confirmed something. His betrayal was obvious. I just didn't want to see it before. My sister grabbed my hand. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to confront him," I said. And suddenly, the shaking stopped. My voice sounded steady. Cold. Clear. Like the part of me that once protected him had finally died. I walked straight toward the booth. But when I got close enough, I heard something that twisted the knife even deeper. He was laughing. Loudly. Flirtatiously. The girl giggled and said, "Your wife must be so strict, making you do some big birthday thing tomorrow." And he responded, casually like ordering a drink. "Oh, she won't mind. She lives for that boring domestic stuff." Boring. Domestic. Stuff. My jaw clenched, so hard my teeth hurt. I stepped into the light, directly next to their table. He looked up. And he froze. "Babe," he squeaked, voice cracking like a teenage boy. The girl went pale and immediately scooted away from him. "Oh my God, are you a sister?" "No," I said. "I'm his wife." The girl's eyes widened with horror. My husband, however, did what he always does when cornered. He lied so fast he nearly tripped over his own tongue. It's not what it looks like. She's just, someone from work. We're on a break. She's going through something. I'm mentoring her. I'm giving her advice." "Advice," I repeated, staring at the two empty margarita glasses. "Yes. Emotional support," he insisted. The girl stared between us, clearly realizing she'd been tricked. "He told me you two were separated." Separated. That was it. My last thread snapped. Behind me, my sister whispered, "Holy shit." My husband stood up, so quickly, he knocked over the salt shaker. Okay, calm down, we don't need to make a scene." "We already have one," I hissed. "And you created it." He grabbed my wrist like he was trying to lead me away. "Let's talk outside." "No," I said, pulling my arm back. "We'll talk here." And suddenly, the girl spoke up, soft but firm. "I'm sorry. I really didn't know. I wouldn't have if I knew." I nodded at her. She wasn't the enemy. She was just another victim of his lies. But him? He stared at me with that stupid, confused, puppy dog face he always uses when caught red-handed. And, for the first time ever, it didn't work. Dylan kept trying to play normal, sitting beside me like he hadn't just been caught with a girl half his age at his own surprise birthday party. He laughed too loudly at every joke, clapped his hands like an overexcited seal when the waiter brought new appetizers, and kept whispering, "Babe, can we talk?" under his breath like that would magically erase what happened. I ignored him, because if I opened my mouth, it wouldn't be talking, it would be screaming. His family noticed something was off. His mom whispered to me, "Honey, are you alright? You look pale." I just smiled and told her I was tired from planning the party. Meanwhile, Dylan was sweating like a guilty toddler caught with a Sharpie near a white couch. The worst part? Every few minutes, he'd glance toward the corner table where the girl had been sitting, like she might suddenly reappear. She didn't, but the panic in his eyes told me enough. He wasn't worried about me. He was worried about her showing up again. When the cake came out, this beautiful chocolate monstrosity I spent 2 hours picking out, Dylan leaned over to blow out the candles, looked at me, and whispered, "Can you not be mad right now? You're ruining the vibe." That was the moment I knew something in me had officially snapped. His sister noticed the tension. His cousins noticed. Even the waiter noticed. Everyone kept giving us cautious side eyes like they were waiting for a brawl to break out between appetizers and dessert. After the cake, Dylan's dad asked him to make a birthday toast. Dylan stood up, cleared his throat dramatically, and launched into some rambling speech about gratitude and family and being blessed. Every word sounded fake. Every smile was strained. Every glance in my direction was a silent plea. I stared right through him. When he sat back down, he tried to grab my hand. I pulled it away. He pretended to rub his own thigh like he totally meant to do that. Finally, after we wrapped up dinner, people started heading out. His mom gave him a hug, kissed his cheek, and said, "I'm so proud of you." I nearly choked. When everyone was gone, it was just us standing outside the restaurant entrance. The glow from the lanterns made everything look soft and warm, which was ironic because my entire body felt like ice. Dylan exhaled shakily and said, "Okay, you want to talk now?" I didn't. Not there. Not while my hands were still trembling. So I said the calmest thing I've said in years. "Get in the car." His face dropped. He knew. This wasn't going to be a conversation he could charm or lie his way out of. And for the first time that night, he didn't give me a bitchy comeback. He didn't try to joke. He didn't act clueless. He just did as he was told. Because he could feel it, the shift. The moment when a wife stops begging, stops crying, stops caring. The moment she becomes done. And Dylan could tell that whatever was coming next, he wasn't prepared for it. I don't even remember walking back to the dining area. My legs felt like they were on autopilot, carrying me through the soft restaurant lighting and the low buzz of conversations. No one knew what had just happened. No one knew what I had just seen. Only I was holding this tiny, burning truth that was beginning to set everything on fire. From afar, I spotted my sister waving at me, mouthing, "Where's he? Did you find him?" I forced a smile so fake it should have cracked my face. "Bathroom line," I mouthed back. She nodded, completely oblivious. Meanwhile, I could still see them in my mind. My husband leaning forward across a table he didn't reserve, laughing in that stupid little snort way he only does when he's trying to impress someone. The girl tossing her hair like she was in a commercial. Their drinks clinking. His hand on hers. My stomach twisted again. I sat down at the long table, surrounded by people who loved him, people who had shown up for him, people who were about to shout surprise, for a man I suddenly didn't recognize. A man who was currently on a date. For his birthday. At the party his wife set up. I stared at the empty seat next to me, his seat, decorated with a little gold birthday king I'd bought last week because I thought it would make him laugh. Now it looked pathetic. Like I'd set a throne for a clown. My mom leaned over and whispered, "Sweetheart, are you okay? You look pale." I nodded, just a little tired. But inside, my thoughts were spiraling. Do I go back over there? Do I confront him in front of her? Do I drag him to this table? Do I tell everyone? Do I cancel the whole thing? Do I pretend nothing happened? Then the waitress approached our big table and said, "Ma'am, are you the one who organized the birthday for Dylan?" I looked up. Yes. She lowered her voice. He, already ordered a bottle of champagne. At another table. Should I bring the cake there instead? My sister, my cousins, and my mom all looked at me at once. I swear the whole world tilted for a second. I exhaled sharply through my nose and stood up. "No," I told the waitress, steadying myself. "Bring the cake here." Then I grabbed the stupid golden birthday king hat and said, "I'll bring him." The table went silent, everyone watching me walk away. My heart wasn't pounding anymore. It was cold, steady, and terrifyingly quiet. Because now it wasn't shock. It was resolve. And he had no idea what was coming. When we got home, the silence in the car was so thick it felt like fog. Dylan kept tapping the steering wheel, glancing at me like he was waiting for me to explode. I didn't trust myself to speak yet. My whole body felt cold, like my anger had frozen into something sharp and controlled. As soon as we stepped inside, he started his performance. He threw his keys on the counter, paced around like a caged animal, and muttered, "This is ridiculous, it was just a drink. You overreacted, you embarrassed me." The usual script. I walked past him, straight to the bedroom, and shut the door. Not slammed, just shut. And apparently, that terrified him more than screaming would've, because within seconds he was on the other side, knocking like a panicked salesman. "Can we please talk?" he said, voice cracking. No answer. He tried again. "Babe? Come on." I didn't do anything. "Right. Sure." Totally normal to, accidentally, be on a date with some girl you don't know, holding hands while your wife carries a custom cake through a restaurant like an idiot. I finally opened the door, and he stumbled in, already talking too fast. "Okay, look, I just met her like a few minutes before you came. She was sitting alone and I felt bad, so I sat with her." "Really?" I said. "And the hand-holding?" "Oh, She grabbed my hand. I didn't even notice. "I'm just very friendly." He actually said this. Dead serious. "And the wine? The flirting? The fact that she called you Dylan baby?" He blinked like he'd been hit with a flashlight. I don't know why she said that. Some girls are dramatic. I stared at him until he finally broke eye contact. "And you just happened to forget about the birthday party I spent a month planning?" He looked down. I got distracted. For a moment, the anger in my chest bubbled hot again, but then it faded into something emptier. Something heavier. Because I realized he wasn't even trying to come up with a good lie. He didn't respect me enough for that. He just wanted the situation to go away. And I, stupidly, had been trying to make him happy. He kept rambling, throwing excuses into the air like spaghetti he hoped would stick to the wall. I was stressed. "I didn't think you'd mind. I didn't do anything. You're making this bigger than it is. You're ruining my birthday. You always overreact. That last one did it." Something in me snapped back into place. Not anger, clarity. "This wasn't an accident," I said quietly. This is who you are. He froze. Like he didn't expect me to say something simple and true. And I'm done pretending otherwise. He swallowed hard. What does that mean? It means, I said, meeting his eyes, I'm not covering for you anymore. I'm not fixing what you break. And I'm not staying with someone who chooses other women on his birthday over the family waiting to celebrate him. He opened his mouth, but no excuse came out this time. For the first time all night, he was silent. And that silence told me everything I needed to know. Tomorrow, I thought everything changes. I don't know how I walked back into that restaurant without collapsing, but I did. Everyone was still gathered around the cake, laughing, talking, completely unaware that the birthday boy was in the corner cheating on his wife, while his own mother was practicing her speech about how proud she was of him. I slipped into the crowd like nothing had happened, though my hands were still shaking. My sister asked where he was. He'll be here, I said. It was the closest thing to the truth I could manage. The manager came over to give me the final confirmation about when they'd bring out the cake. I nodded, thanked him, smiled even. My face must have looked normal enough, because no one asked questions. Meanwhile, all I could see, over and over again, was him leaning across the table, touching that girl's wrist, smiling in that stupid way he only ever used when he wanted something. My phone buzzed again. Mark. Where did you go? Mark. Come back, we need to talk. Mark. Don't make this worse, babe, please. Make this worse? I almost laughed. I texted back 2 words. Come. Now. Less than a minute later, he practically stumbled back into the main dining room, trying to act casual even though guilt was crawling all over his face. He kept glancing around like he was checking to see if the girl followed him. His mom spotted him first. There he is. And the whole table started clapping. Mark froze like a raccoon caught in camera flash. Then he forced a grin and walked toward them. As he passed me, I leaned in and whispered, Go ahead. Blow out your candles. Make a wish. It'll be the last one you make as my husband. He went pale. Everyone started the birthday song. He stood there between his parents, sweating through his shirt, singing along to his own humiliation because he had no idea what I would do next. I wasn't planning to ruin the party for everyone. I wasn't going to yell or expose him in front of the kids or his elderly aunt who still thinks he's a good boy. No. I waited. I watched him blow out the candles. I watched him wish for something he no longer deserved. And I watched him cut himself a slice of cake with shaking hands. When he finally sat down next to me, whispering desperate nonsense. Babe, listen, I can explain. She's just a friend. It wasn't please, please. I stood up, grabbed my purse, and quietly said, I'm leaving. You can stay. It's your party after all. He reached for my arm. I pulled away. Everyone noticed then. Everyone saw his hand hovering in the air, his face twisted with panic, me walking toward the exit with calm steps and a straight back. His mom called after me, confused. Someone asked what was wrong. Dylan stuttered, It's nothing. Just a misunderstanding. She's overreacting. And that was the moment I realized. He wasn't scared of losing me. He was scared of being embarrassed. For once, I let him sit in that fear. I didn't turn back. I didn't explain. I left him there, surrounded by everyone he lied to, while the truth sat heavily on his shoulders. The night wasn't over. Not even close. But now? Now he was the one scrambling to keep it together. And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt the power shift back into my hands. I don't know how long I stood there in the hallway outside the restaurant bathroom, trying to steady my breathing while the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses floated from the dining room. A party I planned. A night I tried to make perfect. A celebration meant for him. And he was sitting in a dark corner with another woman like the world's most pathetic cliché. I wiped my face, fixed my makeup as best as I could with shaking hands, and walked back toward the table where my family and his friends were gathered. My mom was lighting the candles on his cake. His sister was adjusting the birthday banner. Everyone was smiling, excited. The worst part? They kept asking, Where's the birthday boy? Did he run to the bathroom? Should we bring him out? I felt like I was choking on the truth. I forced a smile and said, He's somewhere. I'll bring him in a minute. Some part of me still hoped I was wrong. That maybe the woman was a coworker. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe he would look up and see the party and feel guilty enough to make it all disappear. But when I walked back toward that shadowy corner, he didn't even notice me. He was leaning across the small round table, twirling a strand of her hair with his finger while she giggled. He had the same stupid, smug smile he used to give me years ago. Seeing him like that made something inside me go completely still. Not broken. Not shattered. Just done. I stepped closer, quietly, until I was right behind him. He didn't realize I was there until the girl's eyes widened and she shrank back in her seat. He turned, confused at first, and then his face drained of color when he saw me. Oh, hey. Babe, he stammered, voice cracking. This isn't, it's not what it looks like. There it was. The universal mating call of the cheating idiot. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't make a scene. I just said, Your party is ready. He blinked. My what? The birthday party I planned. The one with your parents. Your friends. Your family. The one I spent weeks organizing while you were apparently too busy playing dating simulator in real life. The girl looked horrified. He told me he was divorced, she blurted out. I breathed in slowly. Let that settle. Looked him dead in the eyes. Of course he did. He jumped up so fast he almost knocked the table over. Listen, can we not do this here? He hissed. You're being dramatic. She's just a friend. A coworker. I didn't want to tell you, because you get jealous. I'm not jealous. I cut him off. I'm bored. His mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Like a fish trying to explain taxes. Can we please talk outside? He begged, reaching for my arm. I stepped back. Your family is waiting. He paled even harder. My parents? Here. Yes, I said. You're supposed to blow out your candles. The girl stood up, grabbed her purse, and whispered to me, I'm sorry, before practically sprinting out of the restaurant. He watched her leave with the expression of a man watching his escape plan evaporate. I didn't say another word. I just turned and walked toward the private dining room. He followed behind me, head down, like a child about to be scolded by the entire planet. And the second we stepped inside that room, decorated in balloons, photos, a banner with his name, the entire place erupted into cheers. Happy birthday. He stood there frozen, like a guilty statue trapped in the spotlight. Everyone waited for him to smile, to laugh, to say thank you. Instead, he looked at me with the most desperate, terrified eyes I've ever seen. And I thought, good. You should be scared. You earned this. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen between the two worlds of my life. The one where I spent weeks planning his birthday, and the one where he sat across from another woman, laughing like he didn't have a wife at all. Eventually, the shock faded just enough for anger to seep in, hot and sharp. I walked back toward our big family table. Everyone was chatting, laughing, sipping drinks, completely unaware of the emotional earthquake that just hit me. My brother noticed my face first. Hey, you good, he whispered. I forced a smile so tight it hurt. Yeah, just checking something. But inside my chest, a full-on meltdown. I kept glancing over at them. The mystery girl was touching his hand now. He was smiling in that stupid bashful way he only used when he thought he was being charming. And he wasn't even glancing around to check if anyone saw him. That was the part that hurt most. He wasn't afraid of getting caught. Not even a little. It was like I didn't exist to him in that moment. I excused myself to fix something with the staff and marched toward the hallway, but halfway there I stopped. Because suddenly, the anger shifted. It wasn't just anger at him. It was anger at me for caring so much for someone who clearly didn't value me. For planning a celebration he didn't deserve. For sitting among people who loved him while he sat with someone who wasn't even supposed to be in the story. When I returned to the table, my mother was placing candles on the cake. The server dimmed the lights. Everyone was smiling, ready to surprise him. Surprise him. The irony nearly made me choke. They all waited for me to bring him over. My mom gestured toward the corner. Go get him. I almost laughed. Go get him. Yeah, sure. Let me just peel him away from his secret date. But I walked toward them, slow, steady, rehearsing in my head what I would say, whether I would confront him in front of her, in front of everyone, or drag him outside like a furious reality show wife. And then, right as I approached, he saw me. His entire face changed. Panic washed over him like someone dumped a bucket of ice water on his soul. Baby, he stuttered. The girl turned around, confused. Is everything okay? He pulled his hand away from hers so fast he nearly dislocated something. She's my boss, he sputtered. His boss. I almost snorted. He doesn't even have a female boss. I raised an eyebrow. He started sweating instantly. Then, before I could respond, the server walked up behind me and cheerfully announced, Ma'am, the cake is ready. Bring your husband over, so we can sing. His face drained so hard it was practically translucent. The girl stiffened. He froze. I froze. Everyone froze. And in that spectacular, humiliating, story-worthy moment, his entire double life collided right in front of him. Everyone stared at him. The girl's eyes widened. Husband, he whispered. I can explain. But I was already turning around. He scrambled after me, whisper yelling, Babe, wait. Babe, this isn't what it looks like. It was exactly what it looked like. And for the first time that night, I felt something new. Power. Like the moment you finally drop a weight you didn't realize you'd been carrying. I led him back to the table. Not because I forgave him, but because the real fireworks were about to begin. I drove home that night with the windows down because I genuinely thought I might throw up. The air felt thick, like everything around me was sinking under the weight of what I'd seen. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, calls from his mom, his sister, even my cousin asking if everything was okay because I had left so abruptly. I didn't answer a single one. When I got home, I put the cake, the damn cake I spent 2 hours designing, on the counter and just stared at it. His name written in gold icing. The decorations I chose because he always wanted something more elegant this year. The candles. All of it suddenly looked ridiculous. Like props in a play I didn't realize I wasn't even part of. I sat down on the kitchen floor and just let silence fill the space. No crying. No screaming. Just numbness. The kind that makes your ears ring. Around midnight, he finally came home. He walked in smelling like cheap perfume and vodka cranberry, a combination I now associate with humiliation. And of course, the moment he saw me, he launched into performance mode. Baby, why'd you leave? You totally misunderstood the situation. She's just a coworker. I didn't even know she'd be there. She just sat down. She needed advice. I couldn't be rude. He kept talking. Loud. Defensive. Words spilling everywhere like he was trying to drown me in noise, so I wouldn't have space to think. I didn't speak. Didn't move. I just looked at him. It scared him. He actually stopped mid-sentence. What? He snapped. Why are you looking at me like that? Because for the first time in 10 years, I wasn't looking at my husband. I was looking at a stranger. He paced the kitchen, ranting, how I overreacted, how the whole restaurant thought I was rude for storming out, how I embarrassed him. Then came the classic line. You made a scene. That was the moment something in me clicked. Not cracked, clicked. like a switch flipping. I stood up slowly. He stopped talking. I walked past him, picked up his birthday cake, and handed it to him. "You can take this," I said quietly, "since you clearly enjoyed your birthday with someone else." He blinked. "What am I supposed to do with it?" "I don't care. Eat it. Throw it away. Share it with your coworker." He flinched like I slapped him. "I told you, nothing happened." I grabbed my purse, my keys, and my phone charger. "Where are you going?" he demanded, voice rising with panic. "To my sister's." He reached for my arm. "Seriously? You're blowing one little thing out of proportion?" I stepped back. "You didn't just ruin your birthday," I said. "You ruined us." The silence afterward was the loudest thing in the room. I left without another word. As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw him standing in the doorway holding the cake box, like a pathetic, confused child who didn't understand why his favorite toy had finally been taken away. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. I don't even know how I managed to stay upright after everything that had already unfolded, but somehow I found myself back at the table with the decorations half set, the cake chilling in the kitchen, and our families chatting politely, totally oblivious to the nuclear meltdown that had just happened behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Dylan kept pacing around the restaurant like a squirrel on espresso, glancing toward the corner where the girl had been sitting. She'd left the moment she realized he was not the single, spontaneous, misunderstood guy he'd apparently advertised himself as. Not only had she left, she'd left angry. And that worried him way more than anything I said. I watched him from the other side of the room, clutching a roll of birthday banners I no longer had the emotional strength to hang. He kept wiping sweat from his forehead, trying to act normal in front of his parents, cracking jokes that fell flat, laughing too loudly, asking his mom if she needed more water, even though she hadn't touched her glass. He was spiraling. And everyone could feel it, even if they didn't know why. At one point, his sister whispered to me, "Is he okay? He's twitchy." I forced a smile. "He'll be fine." I wasn't going to cover for him anymore, but this wasn't the time to expose him either. Not yet. Let him simmer. Then, right as the waitress walked over to ask if we wanted to bring out the cake, Dylan's phone buzzed again. Not once. Not twice. 6 times. In a row. He went pale. I didn't have to look to know who it was. He muttered something about needing the restroom and practically sprinted away, bumping into a waiter on the way like a man being chased by invisible demons. The hypocrisy was almost cinematic. There I was, throwing him a birthday party he didn't deserve, while he hid in a bathroom, scrambling to put out fires he had set himself. While he stayed gone for way too long, the family started to get confused. His dad asked, "Should we start without him?" jokingly. But then his mom added softly, "He seems off tonight." Did something happen? I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat. "Oh, just Dylan being Dylan," I said. And wow, if that wasn't the truest sentence I'd spoken all night. When he finally came back, he had that fake grin plastered on his face, the one he put on when he wanted to pretend everything was normal. But his eyes gave him away. They were darting around, frantic. We all gathered around, the cake beautifully decorated, candles ready, his name written across it like a punchline. "Come on," his sister called. "Make a wish." He stepped up to the cake. But he didn't blow out the candles. His phone buzzed again in his pocket, loud enough for all of us to hear. He froze. Then he panicked. His hand shot out to grab the candles, and he knocked the entire cake off the table. The restaurant gasped. His mother clasped her hands over her mouth. His sister stared at him like he'd sprouted horns. Our kids went silent. And Dylan? Mark just stood there, staring down at the cake splattered on the floor like he couldn't understand gravity. I didn't mean," he stuttered, voice shaking. It was an accident. Why did it? Why did the table?" He looked at me like I had done it. Like I had made him ruin his own birthday. His dad finally broke the silence. "Son, what the hell is going on with you?" Dylan opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. But no words came out. Because he knew, every lie he'd told, every secret he'd hidden, every cheat, every message, every woman, all of it was finally caving in on him. And this time, everyone was watching. Everything was unraveling. And he couldn't charm his way out. He couldn't joke his way out. He couldn't lie his way out. His double life had just been dragged center stage. On his birthday. And I hadn't even said a word. Yet. I don't know how long I stood there after he walked out. Maybe minutes, maybe an hour. Time stopped meaning anything. The restaurant that had been filled with laughter and celebration only moments ago was now painfully quiet. The staff quietly cleaned up the untouched cake, avoiding eye contact. His parents whispered in the corner, unsure whether to comfort me or pretend none of this happened. My hands were still trembling from the shock, but somewhere beneath the humiliation, beneath the heartbreak, beneath the "how could he," something else finally surfaced. Clarity. I realized I had spent years covering for him. Years making excuses. Years fixing the chaos he created. Years believing that if I loved him harder, supported him more, gave him everything, he'd finally be the man he kept promising he'd become. But standing in that restaurant, surrounded by decorations I picked, the gifts I wrapped, and the people who came to celebrate a man who didn't even respect his own marriage, I finally understood the truth. I wasn't losing a husband. I was letting go of a weight I should have dropped a long time ago.